In this chapter, we're going to explore one of the most challenging and honestly most important parts of any collaborative project, the people. You've probably been there, right? You're in a group project, you have the perfect technical solution, but it gets completely derailed by arguments or egos. We tend to focus so much on the code or the data, but managing people, well, that's a craft all on its own. And today, we're going to break down how you can start to master it.
So let's just start with this question. For a lot of us, especially if you're in a technical field, the word politics just feels kind of dirty. It sounds messy, irrational, something you want to avoid at all costs. We hold on to this idea that the best technical solution should just win, period. And anything that gets in the way of that pure logical process, well, we just throw our hands up and dismiss it as politics.
But here's a totally different way to frame it. Politics is just what happens when people have to figure out how to share something. And in any project, the really valuable assets aren't the things you can just copy, like a file. The truly limited resources are things like people's attention, their credibility, their influence. Think about it. Whose bug report gets fixed first? Whose idea gets the most serious consideration in a meeting? All of those decisions, that's politics. And it's not inherently bad, it's just inevitable.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to build a kind of manager's toolbox to handle all of this. First, we'll finish reframing what politics actually means. Then, we'll dive into the one-on-one skills you need. After that, we'll zoom out to look at building a strong community. And finally, we'll get into the really tough stuff, how to navigate project crises. Sound good? Let's jump in.
First up, mastering people-first skills. Everything really starts at the individual level. You can't have a healthy community without having healthy one-on-one interactions. So these are the foundational tools for our toolbox.
Let's talk about delegation. It's so much more than just a way to get work off your to-do list. When you delegate a task to someone, what you're really doing is making a public statement. You're signaling that you trust their abilities. You're inviting them to get more invested in the project. Sure, it might actually take you a little longer to explain it and check their work at first, but that investment is so worth it because it helps build a more committed team.
And how you delegate makes all the difference. Just look at the two options here. The one on the left is an inquiry. It's an invitation, it shows respect for Jane's time and expertise, and it gives her an easy way to say no. But the one on the right? That's an assignment. It implies an obligation, and honestly, it can make people feel like they're being punished for being good at their job. It's a really subtle shift in language, but the impact on team morale is huge.
Okay, now for praise and criticism. Think of them as two sides of the same coin, and that coin is attention. For either one to be effective, it has to be specific. Saying that was sloppy feels like a personal attack, but if you sit down and explain exactly what was wrong with a piece of work, well, that's actually a form of respect. It shows that their work is important enough to be analyzed carefully. And the same thing goes for praise. If you say good job for everything, the words lose their meaning. Save it for when someone goes above and beyond. That way, they know what you truly value.
All right, so we have some tools for those one-on-one interactions. Now let's zoom out and talk about building a healthy community culture for the entire group at the macro level.
So one of the most toxic things that can happen in a collaborative project is territoriality. This is when someone basically puts up an invisible keep out sign on their part of the project. It might seem like they're just being responsible, but it's actually really destructive. It means fewer people are reviewing that part of the work, which leads to lower quality. It creates a single point of failure. What happens if that person gets sick or leaves? And it just completely shatters that spirit of cooperation you need for a project to thrive.
And this brings us to a specific type of territoriality with a fantastic name, cookie licking. You can probably picture it. It's when someone publicly says, "I'll do that," essentially licking the cookie so no one else wants to touch it, but then they just don't do it. The task gets stuck. But here's the cool part. Often, all you have to do is name the behavior. Just saying something like, "Hey, it seems like this task has been cookie licked. Should we open it up for someone else?" That can be enough to get things moving again.
Here's a really simple, practical way to fight territoriality before it even starts. Ban author tags in your source code files. Think about it. Your version control system, something like Git, already keeps a perfect record of who wrote what. Putting someone's name right at the top of the file just encourages that feeling of private ownership, creating these little silos. Getting rid of them sends a powerful and constant message. This code belongs to all of us.
Now, as a leader or even just a proactive team member, you should always be looking for ways to make life easier for the whole group. And a huge opportunity for that is automating repetitive tasks. They just drain everyone's time and energy. So here's a great little rule of thumb to help you decide when to invest the time: the automation ratio.
Basically, it's worth spending up to 10 times the effort to automate a task as it takes to do it manually one time. That upfront investment almost always pays huge dividends in the long run.
Yep, that's the magic number, 10 times. Keep that ratio in your head. It's an incredibly powerful guideline for making your entire team more productive and, frankly, happier.
This next one is a really important mindset shift for growing your project's community. You need to treat every single user as a potential contributor. So when someone takes the time to file a bug report or ask a question, they've already shown they're more engaged than 99% of people out there. See that as an opening, thank them, and then ask, hey, would you be interested in helping us write a fix? Now, most people will say no, and that's totally fine, but just asking costs you nothing, and it sends this incredible signal that your project is open and welcoming to new contributors.
All right, for our last section, let's open up the part of the toolbox for the really tough situations. These are the hard calls, the moments that are really going to test you as a leader.
This is probably one of the most difficult conversations you'll ever have to have, asking someone to step down from a role. The absolute key here is to handle it with care and to follow a clear process. First, make sure you're not the only one seeing the problem. Check in with a few trusted people privately. Then, approach the person also in private with specific, non-judgmental feedback. And this is so important. Suggest that they announce the decision themselves. It allows them to maintain their dignity. It's never going to be an easy talk, but having a respectful process like this can minimize the pain for everyone involved.
The word fork can be super confusing because it actually refers to two completely different things in open source. On the left, you have a short fork. Think of this like making a copy of a group essay. So you can draft a new paragraph on your own before sharing it back with the team. It's a normal, cooperative part of the workflow. But on the right, you have a social fork. This is a real split in the community. It's like half the group gets so fed up, they take their copy of the essay and go start a brand new competing paper. Understanding that difference is absolutely crucial.
So, what do you do when a social fork happens? Well, your first instinct might be to get defensive, to sort of declare war. That's almost always a mistake. See, the real danger isn't the new competing project, it's the potential loss of good people. So your goal should be to minimize that loss. And the best way to do that is to be surprisingly cooperative. Don't make people choose sides. In fact, offer the new project technical help. By doing this, you're signaling to everyone that your project is the stable, mature, professional one, and that's the best argument for why people should stick with you.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up, if there's one central idea to take away from all of this, it's this. Managing people isn't about trying to get rid of politics. That's impossible. It's about realizing that working with people is a craft. It's a set of skills that you can learn, you can practice, and you can get good at, just like coding or any other technical skill. And really, that's the ultimate goal. A successful project isn't one where everybody agrees all the time. I mean, that just doesn't happen. A truly successful, long-lasting project is one that builds the systems and the culture to take all of that inevitable disagreement and channel it into something productive and constructive. And that brings us to the end of our look at the human side of collaborative projects. Now, as you head back to your own work, whether that's a software project, a lab group, or just your next class assignment, I want to leave you with a question. Think about some of the tools we put in our toolbox today. Things like framing requests as inquiries, watching out for cookie licking, or that 10x automation rule. What's one specific tool you can take from this and apply to make your very next group project just a little bit better?